Alright, now let's use the knowledge that you've gained from looking at the definitions of the 6 trigonometric functions and of the signs of those trig functions. And we're going to start off with example 4. It says, given that sine theta equals 2/3 and cosine theta is negative, find tan theta and secant theta. So two things that I need to know. I know that I need to know the values of x, y, and r. That's the first part. The second part is that I need to know what quadrant theta lies in so that I can determine the signs of each of the given values, and therefore each of the given trig functions. So I know that sine theta equals 2/3, so I know that y is equal to 2 and r is equal to 3. So the other thing I know here is that sine is positive and cosine is negative, so I've got to decide what quadrant I'm in. That way I can determine the sign of my answer for x. So if I use the ASTC, I know sine is positive in the first and second quadrants and cosine is negative in the second, so I know I'm in quadrant 2. That means that I know that my answer for x has to be negative, so that's going to help me when I go solve this. So my job now is to find the value of x, and so I start by saying I know that x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So x squared plus 2 squared, which is 4, equals 3 squared, which is 9. X squared is going to equal 5 when I subtract. Here's where it's important to know the sign. When you solve for x squared equals 5, you get x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 5. But depending on what quadrant I'm in, that would determine my sign. So I know already that I'm in quadrant 2. I've also determined that I need the negative, so I'm using the negative square root of 5. And now I can find the tangent of theta. This tangent of theta is y over x. So I'm going to have 2 over negative square roots of 5. We can rationalize this to be negative 2 square roots of 5 over 5. And if I want to find the secant of theta, that's simply just the reciprocal of the cosine. Cosine is x over r, so this would be r over x. So r is 3, and x is negative square root of 5, and I will rationalize. So I'm going to get negative 3 square roots of 5 over 5. Alright, so when you're given some information about one of the trig functions and enough information to determine what quadrant you're in, you're then able to determine all the values of x, y, and r and the appropriate signs. Then you can answer questions about the trig functions. So what I'd like you to do is pause the video, try the student practice problems, then start the video up again to check your work. Alright, given that tan of theta is equal to negative 2/3 and cosine of theta is greater than 0 or positive, find cosine and cosecant. Again, I'm going to start by writing down the x equals, y equals, and r equals, and I want to find out the quadrant. So I start by writing all students take calculus. I know that the tangent is negative, which would put me in the second and the fourth quadrants, and of those two quadrants, cosine is positive in the the fourth quadrant. So now that would help me determine the signs of my x's, my y's, and my r's. I know that the tangent is y over x, and this is where it gets tricky, because if the tangent is negative, basically that just means that the signs of y and x are opposite, but we would have to determine which one was positive and which one was negative. Now that we know what quadrant we're in, we know that the x value is positive and the y value is negative. So y is going to be negative 2, x is going to be positive 3. R is always positive. It will be the square root of the 3 squared, which is 9, plus the negative 2 squared, which is 4, will be the square root of 13. From there, I can find the cosine of theta, which is x over r, which would be 3 over the square root of 13, or if rationalized, 3 square roots of 13 over 13. I can also find the cosecant of theta, which is just 1 over the sine, or r over y. R is always positive, and we said r was 3, square root of 13. And y was equal to negative 2. Okay. And let's just double check our answers. We have cosine, and we have a positive value of cosine. We are in a theta, we said was in the fourth quadrant, and cosine is positive in the fourth quadrant. Cosecant is 1 over the sine, and so we have that as a negative value, and when you're in the fourth quadrant, sine is negative, and so is its reciprocal, so the signs are correct. Okay, let's try the last one. I need to know x, I need to know y, I need to know r. They've actually told me that we're in quadrant 3, which is helpful, so now I know the signs of these values. Sine is y over r, so r is 5. Y is negative 4. I have to find x. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. So x squared plus negative 4 squared, which is 16, is equal to 5 squared, which is 25. X squared equals 25 minus 16. So x squared is going to be 9. X is equal to plus or minus 3, but again, because we are in the third quadrant, we know we want the negative value. So x is actually equal to negative 3. So now that I have that, I can find my secant. Secant of theta, well, that's 1 over the cosine. The cosine is x over r. So the secant is r over x, which would be 5 over 3 negative. The tangent of theta is equal to y over x. Y is equal to negative 4. X is equal to negative 3. So that's equal to 4/3. Again, let's check the signs of our final answers to make sure they make sense. The secant is 1 over the cosine. When I'm in the third quadrant, cosine should be negative, and it's reciprocal. Tangent is positive. In the third quadrant, tangent is supposed to be positive, so that confirms that my signs are correct.